All right, let's go ahead and get started. Looks like the participant list is slowing down with new joins. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. Welcome to any new attendees. If this is your first time attending office hours, thanks for joining us. And for those of you who have been here before, thank you for coming back. My name is Tom Pasek. I'm a Senior Technical Product Marketing Manager here at Servicenow, working with our Performance Analytics and Reporting team. I'm just going to take a couple minutes to run through a few logistical items here related to office hours for the folks who haven't been here before, and then we'll jump into today's session. So first of all, keep in mind these sessions are for you, our customers, our partners, to get the help that you need with your implementations. So if this is your first time joining, you're welcome to just listen in, kind of soak up the knowledge. But this is also your opportunity to ask questions, get those answered. Depending on the question, we obviously can't get too deep into specifics for your particular instance. We can't ask you to share your screens here, but if we can't address something in this meeting, there may be cases where we ask you to raise an incident on high, and we can follow up with you offline on those just to make sure we get time to go through all the questions. You all do have the ability to go off mute and ask questions, but if you're not speaking, I'd like to ask that you stay muted so you don't interrupt our presenters or the other folks asking questions. If you'd prefer, you can also use the Zoom text chat to ask your questions. And we've got a few folks monitoring that question queue and replying to those as we go along. If we don't get any of those addressed, we'll circle back at the end and go through those. I want to point out, if you are asking questions in the text chat, make sure you send them to the entire audience and not just to a specific presenter. And that way the folks who are answering some of those questions, but maybe not presenting, can also see those and get those addressed for you. And then lastly, keep in mind these meetings are being recorded to be posted later. If you're not comfortable with that or your organization is not comfortable with that, please go ahead and disconnect now. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Livija, who's going to cover targets and thresholds and notifications for us today. So Livija, you should be able to share now. Yep, there we go. And we cannot hear you if you're still on mute.
Hello?
Hey, there you are.
Hi, yes, hi. Okay, hello everybody. And today, as Tom just said, we'll go over targets and thresholds, how to create them, and how can you get notifications once they are created. Now, the journey starts at the dashboard. What we are looking at here is the number of open incidents visualized as a single score. Now you see that the number of open incidents as of May 21st is 3,574. Okay, but what does that tell you? Are you doing good? Are you doing bad? Where should you be? Now, targets is a way to realize that. It lets you set the goal where you want to be with a particular KPI, a key process indicator. In our case, the number of open incidents. What I did was I just clicked on the widget and it took me to Analytics Hub of the page. What you're seeing here is available from Madrid. And the way to create targets is really easy and very convenient. You see this button over here? This is the targets panel. Now what I want to do is, well, the score is 3,574, but ideally I want to have only 3,000 incidents. If I have even maybe 10 or 20 more incidents than that, that is really bad. And I want to know that. I want to track it. So let's create a target. So I click on this new target button. We'll get into the details of global and personal later. And the target value is 3,000. And to visualize it in the chart, I'm selecting a previous date. Let's say May 1st, and save. And you see a target is created for this value. So this is where I want to be. However, this is how my trend is. Now let's go back to the dashboard and see how it looks. Clearly, I am not where I want to be. Voila. You see, the score is red. So now when I look at the dashboard, I see, okay, my score is 3,574 and looks like something is off. Okay, the target is somewhere here and I am way over the target. So let's dig deeper and see where I'm off. You can also see that the value by which you're off with the gap over here and the gap percentage, and this is your target value. This progress bar helps you visually understand how far or how close you are to your target. This tick over here represents the target. Now, the targets could be set at two different levels, the global targets and personal targets. Global targets are the ones set by a target admin, defined by the role PA_target_admin. And these are available across for everybody using this widget or in our dashboard, the open incidents. However, you might want to set your own personal goals that maybe you don't want them to be visible for everybody. And that is the reason why we have personal targets. And the way you can create them is just switch over to the personal tab and create a new target. Let's say the global target was 3,000 and I would like to reach 2,005. Okay, that is too ambitious. Let's say 2,900. That's my personal target. And save. You see it appear in the target list. And if you notice that this target, the personal target, is in a lighter shade than the global target, that's how you can differentiate it's a personal target. And it appears on the chart. As I mentioned in the widgets, only the global targets are available because they are for everybody, and this is only for your own tracking. So once these targets are created, now you can create as many as you want, and it can also be created at different levels. Now, the target over here is at the indicator level of number of open incidents. Maybe you want to create a target for, let's say, priority 5 incidents. Oh, I already have one here. Or maybe something else. You could choose the breakdown for which you want to create the target, and you could create the target from here. Now, this is applicable for this indicator and breakdown combination. Now, let's say I want a target of 1,000. There you go. So in this way, for every KPI, you can create targets, and the notifications are based on this individual KPIs. All right. Now let's say, okay, you have these targets created, and all the targets at indicator level are visible here as a list. And if you no longer need them, you can easily delete them using this delete button. And there you go. Okay, let me put that back because I want to show how it looks on the visual. Okay. This is a time series widget for the same indicator, number of open incidents. As you can see, I have configured to visualize the target, and it appears on the widget itself over here as the target line. And the most beneficial part is that you have this color coding that can be defined under target color schemes that will help you just by a look of it with how you're doing currently on this KPI. And when a target is met, you also receive email notifications that can be configured using the form, or you could also subscribe to these notifications, and I could show how. You could subscribe in the settings. Okay, let me do that again slowly. In the settings tab, in the notifications, you could subscribe for CA target notification, and you would receive a mail whenever the target is met. And this happens whenever the scheduled job runs. This is calculated and you would receive it as an email notification. Let's move on to the next feature, the thresholds. It is also conveniently available here in Analytics Hub. And let's say you would want to be notified when there is an all-time high score for your indicator, like in this case, number of open incidents. It is possible by creating a new threshold, all-time high. As you can see, you could visualize that on the chart as a dashed line, and the all-time high for this indicator is 3695, and that score was reached on May 12th. So when this threshold is created, you would have already received an email notification that says, okay, an all-time high score value has reached. That notifies you, okay, something is happening in my indicator, and this is like, it never happened before. This is the highest score, and you can act on it. Similarly, you can also set your own personal thresholds with less than and more than. For example, you want to be notified whenever the KPI goes for a value more than, let's say, 2,500. Save. So I just created a threshold for more than 2,500. So this can be done with less than, and we also have a threshold for all-time low. Now, depending on the indicator, you would be interested in all-time high or all-time low. That depends upon the direction of the indicator, the process you're measuring. Just like we have in targets, we also have global and personal thresholds. Personal thresholds, you receive notifications and you would only see them on the chart when you are when you log in. The global ones are available for everybody who has access and who can view this indicator. So I'm creating a personal threshold for, okay, that's a awfully small value, let's say 1500. And there you go. You could also toggle whether you want to view them on the chart or not using these icons on top of the chart. This way you can switch to see or not. Same goes for targets. And like for targets, you can create thresholds also per KPI. So it could be based on one particular breakdown indicator, and you navigate here, you could create a threshold and that applies for this combination only. Another thing to mention here is you can also create it per time series. So you can have a different target or threshold for a 7-day running sum value. And you just have to select that time series here and create them using this panel, just how we did for the indicator. And all these will be separate notifications in the email. And let's go back to the dashboard one. It's coming. All right. Here you see we can see the thresholds that we created, the all-time high threshold, the more than 2,500 threshold, and also the target line. You can configure whether to view these options or not on the widget. It's part of the widget configuration. And I have enabled to see these lines. These are available for configuration under the display settings of the widget. Yes, that sums up the targets and thresholds feature of analytics, performance analytics. And it's a great feature. It helps you track, and the target schemes help you immediately on first look realize, okay, what might be your next step and how far or how close you are to achieving your goal. Yeah, thank you. Questions? Are there any questions?
So there was a question about what release this came in. Is this a Madrid feature, or has this been around before that?
Targets and thresholds has always been there, but the analytics hub is this view is a Madrid feature.
But the functionality is similar in detailed scorecard.
Yes, yes.
So this what we're seeing should work essentially the same in
yes,
all the
yes.
releases. And personal targets were introduced a few releases ago.
Yes, not in the recent past.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
very long ago.
Okay, great. Are there any other questions? There were 3 questions so far. They were all answered in the chat. The first one was if the personal target, for instance, can be created, for instance, assigned to me, and that's a yes. It's a breakdown element. So as Lidvija demonstrated earlier, you can create a target based on the element that you select.
If you have assigned to as
yes.
a breakdown.
Yes,
exactly. As long as you have the breakdown. And if you can use hours instead of counts, yes. If your indicator is collecting hours, then you can set your target to be hours. And the last one was answered. Are there any other questions? No, you can ask questions either related to the topic or not.
The floor is open.
The floor is open, Wade.
Okay, thank you. My question is to understand a little bit about how people are moving dashboards from environment to environment. Are people utilizing change sets for that purpose, or what are the caveats involved, etc.?
Okay, so the moving a dashboard from one environment to another is a process that you need to do using update sets, right? So I think in London was the last release we updated the UI action so that it captures everything. So with one single UI action, you can add all your dashboard, the visual part, not the configuration part, in your current update set. And then transferring that update set from one environment to the other should be it's be done quite fast.
And that covers the dashboard, what you see, the widget, the PA indicators, jobs, PA widgets, reports, they all have to be moved in an update set as well. But they're not included just by unloading the dashboard.
Okay.
And the steps to do that are documented.
They are documented in our docs.
Everything you need to do about what's there.
Okay.
But
thanks.
there is no other way.
No. Thank you, Wade. Next question is related to weekly trends. Is there a way to show date range in PA weekly trends rather than week number? It shows when hover over, so the data is there, but how do we use that as the labels on the report? Okay, let me go. The x-axis is not configurable at the moment, at least for PA widgets. So even if you change your time series, you will see what we provide out of the box. And as you mentioned, yes, when you hover over a score, you do see the actual week, not only the week number, but a better explanation, a better label for it. what you could do, you can raise an enhancement request for our product managers, and they will receive it and evaluate it, and they will get back to you either through that or they will add it in a future release. Okay, Greg?
Yeah, thanks so much. And so there's no way to script it in the short term, right? That's something that we'll just have to ask for an enhancement.
Well, at the moment, you cannot script it for PA. No, you cannot do that. To script the X. For reporting, what you can do, you can create actually a custom table, and you can have their labels that you would like to use, and then trend by that column, which is a bit of a hack, but it's possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
But not.
Okay, that might be a short-term solution, but I will submit it as an enhancement request to have that built in.
Please. Yes, please do that. That would be really helpful.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Next question is from Christine. I'm collecting data to capture score and want to show the score for year-to-date sum. When I tried to create the widget on the indicator, I didn't have option for year-to-date sum, only up to month-to-date sum. Christine, I suppose you refer to daily indicators. Is that correct? Is your indicator daily? Okay. That was a limitation we had, which we removed in Madrid, I think.
I believe it is on Madrid. I think
yes,
Madrid.
it's in Madrid. So we did have that. We had that limitation that when you had daily scores, you could not aggregate to yearly scores. But we removed that limitation, and from Madrid onwards, you will be able to use that time series.
And you can do it in prior to that, if you do it in 2 steps.
Yes. Yeah. You could do 2 steps for it. Or you can actually, I don't know why, well, if you would like to collect year to date, yeah, maybe you can define your indicator accordingly. But instead of having daily scores.
In Madrid,
yes, but instead of going through all this, once you upgrade to Madrid, it will be much easier because you can actually use your daily scores and get the aggregation for the year. Okay, next question. Can we see example reporting for the SLA breakdown feature released in London? Shannon, we are working on this at the moment. So I'm pretty sure by the next office hours, we will be able to demonstrate something. We can generate records, and you are referring for reporting. I suppose you mean PA and reporting as well, right? Yes, okay. So in the next office hours, I will make sure that we have data on the table, and I'll create some configuration records so that you can see both reporting and PA running on the new tables that we created for the breakdowns. Next one, I have about a custom breakdown. We have catalog items broken down into 2 theoretical groups, standard and non-standard. Okay, so there are about 80 or so items. There are only 2 standard issue items in our IT product catalog. Okay, this can be identified by their names, sysad's, but I'm curious how to apply a breakdown via script. I think I have a grasp of how this would be done by adding a custom drop-down on the catalog item form, but was hoping to avoid changing the table structure. Well, there are 2 ways to do it. As you mentioned, if you do it on the table itself, then you will be able to use also reporting on it, right? So that you can have a checkbox to see if something is a standard or a choice field, and then you can have a choice field that says this is a standard catalog item or not. This way, you'll be able to use it in reporting, and then you can have both functionalities, reporting and performance analytics, and you can use it for these tables. Now, if you want to avoid creating this field on the table, what you can do is to, as you mentioned, the breakdown needs to be scripted. Now, there are 2 approaches actually. You can define, well, you can script it, and then in your breakdown script, you can check the value of the catalog item, and if the sysid is one of the two that you mentioned, then you specify the value to be returned to be the standard or the non-standard, depending on what you want. And in all the rest of the cases.
And that's great to know that it can be scripted, because I was worried that as we expand our standard issue items, that, you know, let's say I needed to rerun historical reports, they wouldn't necessarily be accurate because of the point in time at which any given item became standard. So I wanted to explore the scripting option, because I could, you know, kind of introduce some time dimensions around that would make the counts a little more accurate. But would you happen to have an example of that out of the box that's used anywhere that I could review, or are you familiar with where that would be used in the platform?
There should be some on the community. Generally, if we're going to do that, we would have a script that returns a number, like a 1 or a 0 or a 1, and then we use bucket groups to actually set the standard, non-standard value. So if you look for an example of it in the community with scripted bucket groups, you'll find it.
Okay.
But
Scripted
I would,
okay.
I'm sure there's
there
things out there. I would caution, though, that these scripts have a performance overhead to them. And it's lightweight, that you're okay, but you do prevent yourself from using it on reporting. The scripts are really meant for time series updates, something that varies, the time itself varies. You need to use score start and score end. So if I were doing it, I would want to add it on to maybe the catalog item that would say when it was requested, a standard item or not, and then you can report on that. So I'm not dot walking, but when this item was requested, it was standard, then you have it historically correct, and you can report on it. You can build PA on it. It's very clear when you look at it what is standard and what's not standard.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I think I might go that route then. I don't see myself rerunning historical reports, and then I could always exclude certain jobs. So I guess that wouldn't be an issue. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And next question is from Christine. Can a database view be created of PA collected data? I think I mentioned this in a previous session that we had. We do not allow our end users to run reports or use PA scores as part of a report or database view, because the table can contain quite a lot of records, and if the queries are not run in a certain way, you might face performance issues, and that's why it's restricted, so that end users cannot actually report out of it. But what I would like to ask Christine is, why would you like to create this? What are you trying to achieve, and you would like to have a database view with PA data? And the main reason why I'm asking is because the functionality that we provide and all the widgets can provide you all the results and all the scores that were collected from your collection jobs. So I don't know what, probably you're trying to link it with some other data or external data, which is something you can also do with PA. So yeah, it's a bit unclear to me at the moment. If you would like, we can take it. Okay, I need the report to look like a pivot table, and don't see a visualization that would give me this look, but the score sheet in PA does.
Oh, so that's a breakdown pivot.
Yes, so you can create a breakdown. Oh, well, let me try to change one of the reports here. Report, sorry. I think in a couple of sessions ago, I demonstrated how you can get the top X records, but yeah, it's okay. We will see that later. So pivot breakdown will be we had data. Yeah.
Well, there's
indicator.
Yeah. There is the pivot scorecard will let you list multiple indicators on the same, whether they're named or an indicator group will let you list multiple indicators down the same breakdown.
I have to run. So something like this you meant, Christine. So you can see here the two indicators, and then it's broken down by the assignment group on the x-axis. And I don't know if you noticed in the widget configuration, you can also change that so that the breakdown elements will be visible on the y-axis. That's up to you how you would like to visualize it. Similar, can the columns be different indicators? Well, you select the indicator, so now I change the y-axis to have the elements. So it will look like this. I think that's what you were asking, right? Am I correct? Okay, great. Thank you. And next, Wayne is asking, can you use a formula indicator like A minus B equals C to show records in C only? Okay, so formula indicators, you can use A minus B. A and B are different indicators, either automated or formulas. But to display records, formula indicators do not show records as incidents, for example. You can see the calculated value, but you do not have the list of records as you do in automated indicators. Okay, so I can create a formula to demonstrate that. Okay, as you can see here, the calculation is number of incidents not solved divided by the number of closed incidents, because this is a percentage of incidents not solved. Here you can do any type of math you would like to do, and the result set will give you the value based on the collected values of the indicators you are using, but you will not have the records. You cannot see the records for formula indicators. And Christina, I need the report to look like a pivot table and don't see a visualization that would give me this look, but the score sheet in PA, that's what you mentioned earlier. I'm sorry, I'm rereading it. Can the columns be a monthly aggregation? Yes, so let me go back to the widget that I edited earlier. As you can see here on the widget level, there is a related list of indicators. If you open the records of the indicator,
can you apply the time series at the top?
Yeah.
Time series.
Yeah, we can apply it here. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you, Adam.
They all have to match. They all have to have the same breakdown, and they all have to have the same.
Yeah. The idea is because we are displaying different, we cannot display different aggregations per indicator because that wouldn't really make sense. And so all of them, they have to be on the same time series, and that's why the configuration is on the main indicator, on the widget. Sorry. Way is asking how can you show those records? what are you trying to achieve? Because it's not very clear. You have a formula calculating A minus B.
Well, if you have the total incidents open minus P1s, it would work if they're all mutually exclusive, but it doesn't work if you had something like count distinct or people who have open incidents and people who have open changes. You can't do a delta. You can't do set comparison between the two of those. We're only doing numeric comparison between the scores.
Well, it depends on the use case actually, because if you just want to subtract one indicator from another, if the table is the same, which should be, unless they are numbers that are calculated based on some formula, you can even do it with reporting, right? You can create two conditions, and with a related list, you can get the same result, of course, without the trend, but you will be able to get results and the IDs that you're interested in.
Yeah, very much on the use case too, because the other option we have that we do this sometimes is putting a breakdown or putting a bucket, doing a breakdown on the bucket, which would say all of A, all of B, and you can also do all of C and count them in the right groups.
Yeah.
But formulas don't show records. So the formula won't work, but there are ways of achieving that.
So Christine, as you can see, let me go back. This is the widget that we were looking earlier. So I copied the name of the formula indicator, the percentage of incidents not solved, and this can be added here in the slash bucket. So we can select it, add it, save it, and you have the formula indicator listed as another column in our breakdown widget. Wei says, usually it is because users expect to drill down into details. Yeah, but that depends on the use case, right? I mean, if you have, for example, 5,000 open incidents minus the P1s, which are 200, I mean, if you have a list of 4,000 incidents, I'm not sure that how helpful that list will be. But yeah, if the record set is really small, I can imagine, okay, if you have 5 or 10 records, which is something that you can easily go through record by record, yeah, that might make sense. But yeah, formulas, as mentioned earlier, do not provide you the list of the records that were used to be collected. Maybe what you could do, if that's the use case and the end users need it, maybe you can collect like that. But as I mentioned earlier, it depends. Yeah. Now the next one is Shannon. Okay, can we see an example on the process to perform a mass import into a manual indicator from a CSV file? Specifically, what is best practice for creating the transfer map so the data is loaded to the correct indicators, breakdowns, and elements? Shannon, yes, we can demonstrate that, but I have a couple of questions. Fortunately, today we won't be able to do it because we have to prepare a bit, and it will take us a bit of time to prepare. So I don't think we need to spend time creating all the configuration records. But we can address this in the next office hour session. You mentioned here you want to import manual indicator values from CSV file. Okay, so as you mentioned, if you create a new, when you import a table, there is always a temporary table created where you import all the records, and then you can run PA on top of that table and collect the values as you wanted them, and they will be stored in our tables, and you will be able to use them. It depends a bit on what exactly and how you want to achieve that. I don't know what type of data you'll have on that CSV file, but I will prepare for the next session a CSV, and I will demonstrate how to import. It will be a very simple one, 4 or 5 fields, different type of fields, so that you can see how they look. You always need to have a date, of course. So you can.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Great. So next time we'll have this. And Sorry, I got a bit distracted from the chat message that just popped up. What? Okay, that's where Adam responded to that. So you can run PA on import set tables. Yes, you can run PA on import set tables.
Don't collect records.
It depends what you, yeah, well, if you collect records, you'll have the sysids of records that are going to be deleted soon. So I don't think that is something that you want. It depends on the use case way. So yes, you can have the temporary record and then collect from there, or you can even create a standard instance table where you will actually transform all your temporary records into that table, and then you can collect from them. If the import is refreshed daily, then you have to collect before the import is refreshed, right? Or right after the refresh happens.
Yeah, so
you have to collect. Once you import the data, you have to collect as soon as possible because yes, records can be deleted.
And the way to do that is to have your import set on complete fire the PA job.
Yes.
You leave the PA job is to run on demand, and as soon as the import set has completed, actually the transform app, which can do nothing, but a transform app will then immediately process the PA job.
Great. So are there any other questions?
All right. I guess we'll wrap up a few minutes early this time. Thanks everyone for joining. Quick reminder, our next session will be 2 weeks from today. So we'll see you on June 5th if you'd like to join us again. Looking forward to it. Thanks and have a great day.